Good afternoon, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news this afternoon, VAZ calls on OUR to conduct an audit of light and power company. Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport, Darrell Vaz, is still fuming over what he called Jamaica Public Services tardiness in restoring electricity to some customers who have been without power since Hurricane Beryl struck the country on July 3. At the same time, Vaz said he is not pleased with the length of time it took JPS to restore to customers following last Friday's squall line, which downed several poles and power lines and deprived some customers of electricity for more than 20 hours. I really don't feel that JPS is moving at the speed that a disaster deserves, Vaz said in an interview with the news on Sunday, as he continued to chastise the company for the slow pace at which power restoration is being done following Beryl. He said that coming out of a meeting with JPS management and the directors last Friday, he is still dissatisfied with JPS's performance. What is very clear to me is that after more than 3 weeks, JPS is still lagging behind. They have missed the targets that they set, and it's of major concern to me because they did not show me going into the 4th week that they had additional resources, especially manpower. They still are using the same that have missed the targets, he said. Even worse, Vaz said, according to information from his ministry, JPS is paying rates which are significantly below industry rates, and that is concerning because I can't understand how in a disaster you would not pay and incentivize the workers to be able to carry out the work faster and get an incentive for that. That in itself leaves more questions than answers. He stressed that JPS cannot continue to operate in the manner in which it has without sanctions and is calling on the Office of the Utilities Regulation to conduct a thorough audit of the light and power company. My call is on the OUR to do what they were mandated to do. They are the regulatory arm, and they need to do a fulsome audit of JPS and every condition under the license and report to the country what the findings are. It is unacceptable that JPS can be carrying on the way they are carrying on and have no sanctions whatsoever, he said. Friday's squall line seemed to add to Vaz's fury as he is expected to summon OUR to cabinet today to discuss what happened to cause more than 10,000 customers to be out of power for some 20 hours after the wind. The OUR is also expected to provide information on JPS's maintenance schedule. Vaz argued that the same license which JPS uses to send estimated bills to customers also requires that the company maintains the power lines and change light poles, but this is not being done, pointing out that if you look across Jamaica, you will see the same poles that you've been seeing for decades. He further argued that one of the reasons so many areas that were not hit by the hurricane and not adversely affected have had major issues with downed poles and downed lines and the trees and the shrubs falling on the lines is because the JPS is not doing the required maintenance as its contract stipulates. This is very clear in the squall that we had on Friday night. In certain areas, specifically Kingston and St. Andrew, there were either breeze or rain or breeze alone, and it didn't last very long. And in that you saw what happened in relation to the situation on Waterloo Road, where lines and poles went down all along the corridor. That is exactly the point that I'm making, that they are not maintaining their infrastructure. The worst part of Kingston and St. Andrew is almost fully restored from Beryl, and yet still it took JPS 22 hours from 8 o'clock on Friday night to 6 p.m. on Saturday afternoon to restore areas in Kingston and St. Andrew. That is totally, absolutely unacceptable, and once again shows the situation that they are not putting in place the necessary resources to respond to the customers that they have in and out of Beryl, he said. In a media release on Sunday, JPS said its teams responded almost immediately after the squall to address the power outages in some parishes. It said that the work to restore affected customers continued on Saturday. According to our information, squall lines, which can be quite destructive, did affect some of our infrastructure. While we don't have a complete picture of the extent of the damage incurred, we are aware that approximately 10,000 customers were affected, located in sections of the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, St. Anne and St. Elizabeth. JPS's Senior Vice President of Energy Delivery, Blaine Jarrett, said. He noted that up to Saturday night, the company had successfully restored about half of this number and is continuing to restore the remainder of customers as well as those affected by Hurricane Beryl. Vaz argued too that while JPS's payment of dividends is all well and good, it needs to be held accountable to reinvest some of the profits in maintenance of the grid so that it can stop sucking the blood life out of their customers. Said Vaz, JPS simply adheres to the condition of its license, which has a monetary benefit to them, and for those that have an expense, it seems to ignore, hence why the state of the infrastructure of the JPS is in the state that it is. They are reinvesting none of their profits into making sure that we have a safe, efficient grid, Vaz said. In a statement to Parliament last Tuesday, Vaz had stated his displeasure that the Light and the Power Company had missed the original estimate given to Cabinet for restoration, missed the deadlines published for parish-by-parish restoration, and has not fully restored the service to areas which they indicated are restored. Additionally, Vaz said that based on the missed deadlines, the projected date for full restoration keeps moving further and further away. In fact, Vaz told the news that he is of the belief that given this trajectory, JPS will not meet the deadline for full power restoration. Advocate for Haitians calls for due process as a 35 land in Portland. Founder of Freedom Imaginaries, Malene Lane, is urging the government to allow what she describes as a basic due process guaranteed to take place, wherein Haitian migrants would be screened to determine whether they are asylum seekers. Lane, who spoke with the news via telephone on Sunday following the landing of 35 Haitians by boat in Kensington, East Portland, argued that once the screening process takes place, which is required by international law, an assessment could be made as to whether they are undergoing persecution and civil unrest. Lane's comments come in the wake of what she described as the draconian approach on the part of the government to send back at least 3 groups of Haitians within a 24-hour period recently without giving them the opportunity to apply for asylum. Because the government has adopted such an unlawful and draconian approach towards Haitians who are asylum seekers, it pushes them to try to enter through these irregular channels, she said. In February, 37 Haitians who are currently housed at a facility in St. Mary had their application for asylum rejected by the government. The Haitians had arrived in Jamaica by boat last year after claiming that they were fleeing persecution, civil unrest, economic hardships, and gang warfare. However, in June 2024, the government announced that it was developing a humanitarian stay option, and according to Elaine, she is assuming that the Haitians currently housed at a non-custodial facility in St. Mary will benefit from that initiative. While Elaine is lobbying for better treatment for the Haitians who continue to turn up on Jamaica's shores illegally, including at least 3 groups that landed in the eastern end of the parish undetected in the dead of night, she has admitted that such activities raise serious security issues and breaches. Any group of persons entering your borders undetected raises a number of security issues, not just Haitians, but anybody, as it is a breach of the system. The Haitians are fleeing persecution and they are trying to live and survive. It is well documented what the human rights body says about the side effects of government adopting these unlawful and draconian repressive measures, that it pushes vulnerable asylum seekers to take these very treacherous routes across the sea in these unworthy boats, entering in an irregular way. What should happen is that asylum seekers should feel safe entering Jamaica so that they will enter through regular channels and that they will feel sure that when they speak to an immigration official, their claim will be assessed fairly, but that is not happening now, she added. In the meantime, Elaine is suggesting that a humanitarian stay option should be implemented, which according to her would allow for authorities to grant work permits to Haitians who she said are very talented and extremely hardworking. The 35 Haitians comprising adult males, adult females, and teenagers who landed at a beach in Kensington yesterday underwent a screening and medical checkups at the Port Antonio Health Center. It is the fourth set of Haitians to have set foot illegally on Jamaica's shores since 2024, and they come at a time when there have been ongoing heated exchanges between human rights lobbyists and the government over the welfare of Haitians fleeing their ravaged homeland in search of a better life. Guys, thank you for watching. See you this evening at 6 p.m. for another news update.